Neo-Elysium was a city that never truly slept. Its skyscrapers gleamed under the light of 1,000 drones, their metallic frames reflecting the neon glow from below. Flying vehicles zipped through the sky lanes, leaving streaks of color in their wake. But despite the city's advanced technology and the hum of AI-driven systems, humans still held a special place in its heart. There was something about them, something unpredictable, something alive that no algorithm could ever replicate. Dr. Eli Vance walked through the crowded streets, his eyes scanning the throngs of people, robots, and alien visitors. He adjusted the strap of his messenger bag, which carried a few tools, data pads, and the small notebook he always kept for sketches and observations. Unlike the advanced artificial intelligences that had become common, Eli relied on observation, intuition, and creativity. He was heading to the Central Diplomatic Tower, a massive structure made of transparent materials that refracted light in every direction. It was here that he would meet Lyra, an alien diplomat whose species was known for intelligence, poise, and a very firm personal boundary system. Humans were intrigued by Lyra, and many found her presence intimidating. She could read body language, detect emotional fluctuations, and respond instantly to any sign of deception. But she had also developed a reputation for playfulness, if you could call it that. As Eli entered the tower's grand lobby, he saw Lyra waiting. She was taller than most humans, her skin a shimmering shade of silver that seemed to shift in the light. Her eyes, deep and violet, scanned the room with precision. There was something in her stance that spoke of confidence, but also of caution. Eli approached, keeping a friendly smile. "Dr. Eli Vance," he said, extending his hand in greeting. Lyra tilted her head slightly, examining him. Then, with a dry humor that surprised him, she said, "If you touch me again, I'll be the last person you ever touch." Eli smiled, not at all deterred. "Challenge accepted," he replied lightly. It wasn't meant as a threat. In fact, it was a recognition. Humans were often bold in ways aliens could not understand. Where many saw danger, humans often saw curiosity. Where many saw limits, humans saw opportunities. That was part of what Eli hoped to demonstrate. The first few hours were spent in formal introductions. Eli explained his role as a xenopsychologist. His job was to study alien behaviors, their communication patterns, and their psychological nuances. But more importantly, he wanted to understand how humans could connect with beings so different from themselves. Lyra listened carefully, nodding, occasionally making sharp observations that Eli jotted down in his notebook. After the introductions, Lyra led him to a room designed for interaction experiments. It was circular, with walls that could display holographic projections. In the center of the room was a platform, just large enough for two people to stand comfortably. Eli noticed that the room was equipped with sensors, but none of them seemed intrusive. They were designed to record interactions without interfering. Lyra stepped onto the platform. "You may begin," she said, her voice calm but firm. "But remember your warning." Eli grinned. He started with simple gestures, leaning slightly forward, testing her reactions. Lyra's eyes flickered with subtle cues whenever he moved closer. He realized quickly that her warning wasn't just a joke, it was a defense mechanism. Her species had highly advanced personal boundaries that could trigger defensive responses if violated. The challenge wasn't to ignore them, but to understand them. He took a deep breath and decided to rely on human strengths: humor, unpredictability, and empathy. Instead of moving directly toward her, he began narrating a story about a human child who tried to teach a cat to fly. The tale was absurd, full of imagination, and unexpected twists. As he spoke, he watched Lyra's expressions closely. At first, her face was neutral, but then a flicker of amusement crossed her features. She raised an eyebrow, a slight smile appearing at the corner of her mouth. Eli continued, varying his tone. adding gestures, using pauses to create tension and surprise. Lyra's defenses did not activate. Instead, she leaned slightly forward. As if intrigued, he realized that humor and creativity could bypass some of her logical safeguards. After several minutes, Eli tried a small gesture extending his hand, but stopping a few inches away from hers. It wasn't a touch, but it was an invitation. Lyra regarded it for a moment, then slowly placed her hand near his, stopping just short of contact. She wasn't resisting, but she wasn't fully accepting either. That was clever, she said. Most humans would have failed within seconds. Eli shrugged, still smiling. We humans thrive on failure, he said. We learn from it, adapt, and try again. Lyra tilted her head again, clearly amused by his answer. You are different, she said softly. Your species is unpredictable, but not without logic. There is a pattern in your unpredictability. Exactly, Eli said. Sometimes, what looks like chaos is actually strategy. For the next few hours, they continued their game of wits. Eli told stories, created little visual illusions with his hands, and even mimed interactions with imaginary creatures. Lyra responded, occasionally mimicking him or introducing her own subtle challenges. Every time he moved closer, she adjusted her stance, maintaining her boundaries but never breaking eye contact. It became clear to Eli that the real lesson here wasn't about touching her at all. It was about connection, communication, and understanding. Humans could succeed where algorithms failed because they could improvise, feel, and read subtle emotional cues. Lyra, despite her advanced intelligence, was fascinated by his ability to engage her in a way no AI or alien diplomat had managed. Eventually, the game slowed. Both of them stood in the center of the holographic platform, breathing evenly. Lyra's expression softened, a sign that she had begun to trust him. You are persistent, she said. Not in a dangerous way. In a human way. That's all I have, Eli replied. Persistence, curiosity, and a lot of awkward humor. Lyra laughed softly, a sound that was melodic and unusual. I have observed many species, she said. Many beings, human and non-human. But you are not like the others. You do not rely on force or intimidation. You rely on imagination. And that is rare. 41. Weather live. Eli nodded. It's the same way we've survived and thrived. Imagination, cooperation, and thinking outside the expected. For a moment, there was silence. Then Lyra stepped closer, still careful to maintain her boundaries. Perhaps this is only the beginning, she said. Perhaps humans have more to teach me than I realized. Eli smiled, feeling a surge of excitement. This was not just an encounter. It was the start of something bigger. Something that could redefine how humans interacted with the wider universe. It was proof that even in a world of advanced AI, alien diplomacy, and complex technology, the human spirit, its creativity, empathy, and unpredictability, was a force to be reckoned with. As they left the holographic room, Eli glanced at Lyra. Next time, I might just touch you, he said with a grin. She raised an eyebrow, clearly unamused or pretending to be. Perhaps, she replied. But remember my warning. Eli laughed, a warm, human laugh that echoed through the tower's halls. Warnings are invitations in disguise, he said. And in that moment, both human and alien understood something essential. That connection was never about force or compliance. It was about trust, creativity, and the willingness to see the world through another's eyes. And Eli, with all his human unpredictability, had just taken the first step into a universe full of possibilities. The morning sun filtered through the transparent walls of the central diplomatic tower, casting long shadows on the polished floor. Neo Elysium was alive outside, with its hum of drones and the soft roar of hover vehicles. But inside, a different kind of energy pulsed. An energy born from curiosity, intellect, and challenge. Dr. Eli Vance followed Lyra through a maze of corridors, each more futuristic than the last. The walls shimmered with soft light, and panels displayed floating holographic interfaces. Despite the advanced technology surrounding them, Eli felt a sense of excitement rather than intimidation. This was a playground for intelligence, not just power. Lyra led him to a circular chamber at the tower's heart. Unlike the first room, this space was completely empty, save for a small, raised platform in the center. The walls glowed faintly, hinting at a capability to project immersive holographic environments. Sensors, though unobtrusive, lined the floor and ceiling, monitoring movements, expressions, and even subtle biometric signals. "This is where the real test begins," Lyra said, her voice calm yet carrying an undercurrent of challenge. "You have learned to communicate with me here. Now, you will do so in a controlled environment, where every thought, gesture, and action is reflected and magnified. Your goal is simple: connect with me without triggering my defensive protocols." Eli's brow arched. Connect without triggering defenses. Sounds easy enough. Lyra's expression remained neutral. "It will not be easy. Your species is creative, yes, but creativity alone may not suffice. You must understand me, truly understand me, and act accordingly. Improvise where necessary, predict where you can, but never cross the boundary." She stepped onto the platform, and Eli followed. Immediately, the walls shifted, forming a three-dimensional landscape around them. Mountains of light rose in the distance, rivers of iridescent color flowed below, and the sky glimmered with floating geometric shapes. The world felt alive, responsive, and strangely aware of their presence. "Everything you see is a reflection of my thought patterns," Lyra explained. "This environment reacts to intention, logic, and emotion. One wrong move, and I will withdraw entirely. You will see the world through my perception, and I will see yours. Begin." Eli looked around, absorbing the alien landscape. It was breathtaking, but he reminded himself that beauty alone would not solve this challenge. He needed strategy, creativity, and intuition, the uniquely human tools that had brought him this far. He started slowly, walking through the glowing rivers, observing how the landscape responded to his steps. With each movement, the holographic world shifted subtly. Colors changed, light bent, and distant shapes morphed. Lyra mirrored his movements at a distance, her form flickering slightly as though she were testing his reactions. Instead of moving directly toward her, Eli decided to experiment. He created patterns with his hands, casting imaginary nets and spinning arcs in the air. The holographic rivers rippled in response. Lyra's eyes narrowed, intrigued. She adjusted her stance, but did not retreat. It was the first sign that his approach had merit. Eli paused, considering his next move. Logic alone would not suffice. He needed emotion, unpredictability, and humor, the traits no alien could perfectly anticipate. He began to tell a story aloud, this time about a human who tried to teach a bird to write letters. His voice wove rhythmically through the space, and the landscape seemed to bend around his words, the rivers flowing in time with the narrative. Lyra's defenses remained passive. She tilted her head, listening carefully, occasionally adding a subtle change in the environment, a tree that bent toward her, or a light that shimmered faster. These were her cues, and Eli had learned to read them. Every subtle shift revealed a pattern, and with each discovery, he adjusted his approach. Minutes turned into an hour. Eli's storytelling evolved into improvisation. He acted out scenes, mimed interactions with imaginary creatures, and created tiny illusions with his gestures. Lyra responded in kind, introducing her own subtle changes. A floating bridge, a sudden gust of wind, a ripple of lights that danced like fireflies. At one point, Eli noticed that every time he paused, Lyra introduced a reflective surface, a mirror of light that showed him his own movements with slight delays. He realized she was testing patience as much as creativity. Instead of rushing forward, he matched her tempo, moving with care and intention, observing the feedback. "Impressive," Lyra said, after a particularly intricate sequence. "You are not just reacting. You are learning, adapting, predicting. But there is more to this than logic or creativity alone." Eli nodded. "I understand. It's not about winning. It's about connecting, reading the space, and respecting your boundaries." Lyra's eyes glimmered. "Exactly. Most humans would have tried to force contact or bypass the environment. You are different. Your species does not always follow rules, yet you understand when they are important. You improvise within boundaries. That is rare." Encouraged, Eli tried a new approach. He began to mirror her movements subtly, creating a silent dialogue. His hands mimicked hers without touching. His steps mirrored her path through the shifting landscape. The holographic world responded, amplifying their movements in elegant symmetry. Light formed patterns around them. Bridges rose where their steps met, and rivers of color intertwined. Lyra paused, studying him closely. "You are using human intuition, aren't you?" she asked. "No alien algorithm could replicate this." "It's what we do best," Eli replied. "We feel, adapt, and improvise. Patterns are helpful, but understanding comes from observing and reacting in ways that are not predictable." For the next several hours, they continued this silent, graceful interaction. Eli discovered subtle rhythms in Lyra's movements and thoughts, anticipating her responses and creating harmony. He realized that the challenge was not just to avoid triggering her defenses, but to engage her mind fully, showing patience, creativity, and respect. Lyra began to smile more often, though ever so slightly. The environment became less tense and more playful. Floating islands would rise in response to their laughter. Rivers would swirl around them in whimsical arcs. The chamber transformed into a shared expression of creativity, a collaborative performance between human and alien. Finally, Eli attempted a symbolic gesture. He extended his hand slowly, palm open, not to touch, but to invite. Lyra observed for a moment, her eyes scanning for any hint of insincerity or aggression. Then, deliberately, she extended her own hand toward his, stopping just short of contact. "It is not the touch itself," she said softly. "It is the understanding behind it. The intention, the care, the awareness. You have done something remarkable. You have shown that human intuition can succeed where logic alone fails." Eli smiled, his heart racing with excitement. "Then I guess humans really are unpredictable," he said. "And that can be a good thing." Lyra's gaze softened. "Indeed. Your species thrives because you are adaptable, creative, and empathetic. You can navigate environments that no AI, no alien, no perfect algorithm could ever master. You see possibilities where others see limits." They spent the rest of the day exploring the holographic environment together, creating and responding, learning and teaching. Eli realized that this experience was more than a challenge, it was a partnership. The HFY essence of humanity was on full display. Curiosity, imagination, and the ability to connect through understanding rather than force. As the holographic environment gradually faded and the chamber returned to its neutral state, Lyra turned to him. "You have done more than meet my expectations," she said. "You have shown the true potential of your species. Persistence, creativity, and intuition are your strengths, and today They have shone brighter than any technology. Eli laughed, feeling both pride and humility. It's amazing what humans can do when given the chance, he said, even against challenges that seem impossible. Lyra's violet eyes glimmered. Perhaps this is only the beginning, she said. There are still countless mysteries to explore, universes to understand, beings to connect with, and humans. Humans may be the key to navigating them in ways we cannot yet imagine. Mandig. Mandig Navadig. Eli nodded. Then let's continue, he said. Together, we'll see what's possible. And so, with the city of Neo Elysium bustling far below, two beings, human and alien, stood side by side, not in conflict, but in collaboration. Eli understood, in that moment, that the universe was vast, but human ingenuity, empathy, and creativity could illuminate even the darkest, most complex corners. For the first time, he felt that the promise of humanity, the essence of HFY, was not just a slogan, but a reality. And he knew that the challenge was only beginning. The soft hum of Neo Elysium's city life reached the upper levels of the central diplomatic tower, but within the chamber, there was silence. Only the subtle sound of the sensors and the occasional ripple of shifting light reminded Eli Vance and Lyra that the world outside still existed. The holographic environment was ready again. This time, Lyra had prepared a new scenario. The room expanded, and walls became fluid, displaying landscapes that were simultaneously familiar and strange. Forests with glowing trees, rivers that seemed to sing, mountains that floated mid-air. It was a test of perception, patience, and creativity, the culmination of everything Eli had learned. Lyra stepped forward, her silver skin glimmering under the shifting lights. Vance, she said, her voice calm but carrying a weight of expectation. We will attempt what neither human nor alien has attempted before. The goal is not simply to communicate or connect. It is to merge perception and intention in a shared understanding. To do this, you must rely entirely on your human strengths. Eli felt a surge of excitement. He had already proven that humans could navigate her defenses with humor, creativity, and empathy. But this was different. This was a test not just of skill, but of synergy. He nodded. Then I suppose I should begin. Lyra's eyes flickered with subtle lights, and the environment responded instantly. Paths of light opened before them. Rivers of liquid color flowed in response to their movements, and floating shapes adjusted in real time. The holographic world reflected not only their physical actions, but their intentions, emotions, and imagination. Every choice mattered. Every gesture created a ripple. Eli moved carefully, sensing the rhythm of Lyra's mind. Instead of rushing or forcing interactions, he allowed the space to guide him. He observed her subtle cues. The tilt of her head, the glimmer of her eyes, the faint shifts in the landscape. Also, the tilt of her the tilt of her head, also head, the tilt of her 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 head. Each detail was a piece of a puzzle, and he used it to predict the next move without breaking the unspoken rules. He began to create patterns in the air with his hands, weaving streams of light and shadow. Lyra responded by adjusting her posture, sending reflective pulses across the holographic rivers. It was a silent dance, a dialogue without words. Eli realized that he didn't need to touch her physically to connect deeply. Every action, every thought, every moment of awareness was a bridge between them. Hours passed like minutes. Eli experimented with storytelling again, but this time, it was interactive. He created scenes where holographic creatures reacted unpredictably, and he adapted, guiding them with humor and insight. Lyra mirrored his efforts, introducing challenges that required creativity, patience, and subtlety. Then Eli noticed something extraordinary. Whenever he introduced unpredictability, an illogical gesture, a playful spin, or a sudden burst of imagination, the environment brightened, shimmered, and responded more vividly. Lyra's defenses, while still present, softened in response to genuine creativity. She was not resisting him. She was engaging with him, matching his intuition with her own intelligence. He paused, taking a deep breath. "Lyra," he said softly, "I think I understand now. It's not about me bypassing your defenses. It's about us creating something together. Something neither human nor alien could make alone." Lyra's violet eyes studied him carefully, her expression unreadable for a moment. Then a faint smile appeared. "Indeed, connection is not a singular act. It is a shared effort. And humans, you understand collaboration in ways that are often overlooked. Your species thrives because of creativity, empathy, and adaptability." Scene. Encouraged, Eli took a small step forward, still careful, still respectful, and extended his hand slowly, palm open. It was symbolic, an invitation rather than an attempt at contact. Lyra observed, her eyes reflecting light like twin stars. Then, deliberately, she extended her own hand, stopping just short of his. "It is not the touch that matters," she said. "It is the intention behind it. Your patience, observation, and imagination have created a space where trust can exist." Eli smiled. "Then let this gesture be the beginning of understanding. Not control, not dominance, just connection." The environment responded instantly. Holographic rivers swirled around them, trees bent as if bowing, and the floating mountains aligned to form an arch above their heads. The room was no longer a challenge, it had become a shared creation. Human ingenuity and alien intelligence had merged into a seamless, living landscape. Lyra stepped closer, keeping the boundary intact but closing the distance of perception. "You have shown what your species is capable of," she said. "You are not the strongest, fastest, or most precise, but you are adaptable, inventive, and empathetic. These qualities allow you to navigate complexity in ways no other being can." Eli nodded. "That's what we humans do best. We improvise. We learn. We connect. We turn challenges into opportunities." Lyra tilted her head, the shimmer of her skin reflecting the holographic light. "I underestimated humans. Not individually, but collectively. Your species has potential that even I could not fully anticipate. Imagination, intuition, empathy. They are strengths in ways that transcend logic." For the first time, Eli saw Lyra truly relaxed. The walls of defense she had built were no longer barriers, but frameworks for interaction. They were two beings, human and alien, exploring the limits of understanding together. "Eli," she said after a pause, "you have done more than complete a challenge. You have created trust, partnership, and shared awareness. You have demonstrated that humanity's greatest strength is not technology or force, but ingenuity and empathy." Eli felt a warmth in his chest, a quiet pride. "Then I suppose the universe might just need humans after all," he said with a grin. Lyra's smile widened, though still subtle. "Perhaps. But more importantly, humans remind us that connection is not about overcoming others. It is about collaboration. You have shown that relationships, understanding, and shared creativity are far more powerful than control or dominance." The holographic environment slowly faded, leaving the chamber in its neutral state. But Eli could still feel the echoes of the shared creation, the invisible threads of trust and understanding that had formed between them. As they stepped off the platform, Lyra turned to him. "This is only the beginning. There are still countless mysteries, worlds, and civilizations to explore." And humans, with your unpredictability and imagination, may be key to unlocking them. Eli's eyes sparkled. Then, we'll explore them together. And I'll keep using my human ingenuity every step of the way. Lyra inclined her head. It is rare for me to encounter a species that can match my expectations. But humans, you surpass them. You have proven that persistence, creativity, and empathy are not weaknesses. They are strengths that can shape the future. Eli chuckled softly. I always knew that. Now everyone else just needs to see it. Lyra's expression softened further. Perhaps one day they will. For now, you have reminded me and reminded yourself why humans continue to thrive. Not because of power or technology, but because of your spirit, your creativity, and your ability to connect. The two of them walked out of the chamber together. The city of Neo Elysium stretched far below, lights flickering like stars against the night sky. But Eli felt a new kind of illumination, the sense that human potential was limitless, and that connection, ingenuity, and collaboration could shine brighter than any technology or alien intelligence. He glanced at Lyra, who seemed almost serene, her violet eyes reflecting a mixture of admiration and curiosity. Next time, he said lightly, I might just try another story in the holographic world. Lyra laughed softly, a sound that was both musical and warm. Perhaps, but remember my warning. Eli grinned, the familiar spark of human boldness lighting his eyes. Warnings are only invitations in disguise. And in that moment, both human and alien understood something fundamental. The universe was vast and full of challenges. But the human spirit, its imagination, empathy, and creativity was capable of shaping realities, bridging differences, and creating trust where none existed before. It was not just a victory for Eli or for humans. It was a celebration of what humanity could achieve when curiosity, courage, and connection led the way. And as the city continued its endless hum far below, Eli knew that the story of human ingenuity had only just begun. For in a universe of infinite possibilities, humans could always find a way to adapt, innovate, and inspire. And that, more than anything, was a force that no technology, alien, or obstacle could ever match.